This episode is brought to you by Westcott, creator of innovative lighting solutions for all photography and filmmaking styles and skill levels. Find out more at fjwestcott.com.
You're listening to Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon.
Hey, what's up, World Wide Web? This is Alex.
And this is Joel.
And we're filmmakers.
Drinking bourbon.
Well, at least you are. Cheers, buddy.
At least I am. Cheers.
Hey, so Joel, who the hell are you?
I am a multimedia designer, I guess, or multimedia artist, whatever you want to call it. A jack of all trades.
Multimedia, multi-talented media professional?
Yeah, I've been called a lot of things over the years.
Nice.
I think digital media designer was one of them, one of my titles. Video producer. I mean, I've worn a lot of different hats at different agencies around town.
Yeah. How do we know each other?
God, how don't we know each other would maybe be
Whoa.
the better question to ask.
Don't give away too much.
Oh man, we've been friends since like the 7th grade. You know, it's been a long time.
Were you interested in video back then?
I was interested in watching videos, maybe.
Yeah.
On the early iteration of the internet.
What was the first video you ever created? That's a weird question, but I just thought of it.
Gosh. The first video I ever created was probably it probably had to do with okay, so what it was is Scott, our other close friend of ours, we would basically with an old VHS camcorder, we would make little short movies and stuff with action figures and toys and stuff like that. We did that forever ago.
So that's how you got introduced.
I don't know about that, but yeah, as far as first video I've ever made, that's probably it.
Do you have one of those videos laying around? I was gonna say we should throw that up with one of your newest creations.
Those VHS tapes were burned long ago.
No one shall ever see these.
Yes, unfortunately.
That's funny. Wow. So what are you doing now? Like, what do you do nowadays in relation to filmmaking?
Nowadays, I mean, I'm just, general purpose, video professional. I mean, I shoot on my own a little bit here and there. It's mostly post-production nowadays. Do a lot of video editing. Been getting a lot into motion graphics and 2D animation, a little 3D animation, stuff like that.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, it's just mostly post-oriented these days. But
are you full-time at a place? Are you freelance? Are you on your own? What are you doing?
Freelance. I have been freelancing full-time for the past about 5 or 6 months or so. So before that, spent the last 5 years in the agency world around town, downtown Cincinnati.
How was that? How was agency life?
It was interesting. It definitely opened my eyes a lot to, just how, like, the industry here. I mean, there was the whole design and marketing industry that I didn't really know all that much about, fresh out of college. And, I learned a lot about it working at places like LPK and U.S. Digital Partners and most recently Powerhouse Factories and Power Media Marketing.
LPK is like a worldwide agency, is it not?
Yes, they are.
So did you get to kind of interact with the worldly side of it?
LPK, I don't know how many offices they have around the globe nowadays. I mean, they had offices they had one in Frankfurt, they had one in Guangzhou, a couple of other places. I don't know what it's looking like now, but I mean, they were mostly kind of isolated to their own work at the different agencies. I mean, we would bring people in occasionally to collaborate on projects or to work on various brands and stuff like that. But I mean, it was a little siloed, I think. So
yeah, I know around here they're known for a lot of like packaging design and stuff like that. And for their brand relations with like Jim Beam and a couple other places. What were some of your responsibilities when you were there?
Beam, it's interesting you bring that up. Beam, that was actually a pretty cool project that I got to work on. We went out with a photo crew and basically the team in charge of the packaging design for Beam and Maker's Mark. We went down to Kentucky to the distilleries, and we first took a tour, and then just kind of accompanied the photographers and backed them up with some video and stuff like that, and we used it for various things. But yeah, I mean, my primary goal there was just to kind of collaborate with the various teams and brands on small-ish multimedia and video projects that they had in the works.
Cool. Did you get to taste any of the product on the beam shoot?
Yeah. Well, there's the funny story about that. During our tour, because we would go on the tour before we did any actual work, just so we got, a better idea of like the layout of everything and like the process. And I mean, there's a point in the process of creating bourbon, I guess.
Whiskey, right?
Whiskey. See,
Jim Beam, Tennessee whiskey.
Whiskey.
Yeah.
They
not real bourbon.
No. Still very good though. The high wine, basically, it's basically like moonshine. It's just very potent, a very potent beverage that you're not supposed to. You're just supposed to sip on it. They just want to give you a little taste of it, so they pull out a little shot glass of it.
Make you go blind.
Well, yeah, and almost did, because being. I don't know if I was trying to show off or what, or if I thought I could just take it, but I shot the whole thing and almost ended very poorly for me.
Yeah, I bet it wants to come right back up.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, that's funny. So you're involved in video side, but you're doing stills and motion graphics there too, or was that like after the fact? Did you get into that later?
I feel like one of the things that I went after. The hardest right out of the gate out of college was still photography. I'd always kind of had a passion for that, even before college, and especially during college. I got to work with a lot of talented people there. The staff photographer, the staff photojournalist.
Where is there, by the way?
Oh, Ohio University.
Nice.
Our alma mater. I just, it's one of those things that I wanted to get better at, and really kind of trying to incorporate it more and more into, my work and the work that I aspire to do. So
nice.
And I would do a little bit of that at LPK, but I mean, again, they had a team for everything. They had a pretty top-notch photo and visual team there. So
yeah,
I got to do a little bit of work, but I was mostly just spread out still across all the different things.
Nice. Speaking of photos, you were like me. I mean, we we got started in the same time frame, the DSLR revolution era. I think we went different paths though. I went the Canon side, and I believe you went the Nikon side.
That is correct.
What did you start out with back then? Your favorite?
The first DSLR I ever had, I mean, that was probably the Nikon D80. I barely remember the specs of it. It was probably like, I don't know, less than 10 megapixels. I mean, I don't think it even had a live view function. Definitely didn't record video.
No, but I mean, the first video DSLR that you had.
The first one I got my hands on ever was the 5D Mark II, because they had a couple at LPK at the time, but the first one I owned was the Nikon D800.
The D800.
And I still use that today.
It's great.
Oh yeah,
great camera.
Yeah. 36 megapixels. I mean, it was above and beyond the usual specs even back then, and still competes today. So,
do you still do any video projects on it?
I haven't in a long time. The last thing I used it for, I think, was a shoot. It was at Washington Park during the City Fleet. It was for Ivory, P&G. They were doing a rebrand of Ivory soap, and then they wanted some video coverage. And I initially went in with just a big rig. I mean, it was a GH4, so a smaller camera, but it was outfitted with matte box and just a cage, monitors, all that jazz. And it was just too much. Like, it was just really kind of harshing the vibes, I guess. So I had to get a little more covert. And I had my D800 on me on me that day, so I busted that out to kind of move around a little easier and move around a little more stealthily, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
What you've since graduated though from the DSLRs. You've been working with some big toys lately.
Yeah.
What's the newest deal?
I got a lot of experience with day-to-day experience with the Scarlet Dragon. It's just an amazing camera. I mean, a lot of people look at those larger cameras and they wonder, oh, how this camera's $20,000? Like, why does it cost so much? Like, what possibly could it offer you? And it's just, I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, when you're doing like serious production work or you need, the top-notch equipment, I mean, it's what they shoot movies on. So, I mean,
what were some of the
pleasure to use
initial benefits that you realized, like when you first started working with the Scarlet Dragon, coming from the D800 and the GH4? What were some of the oh my God, this is why?
I mean, just the red code. It looks so good. I mean, the format that you record in. I mean, it's beautiful. It's almost no comparison really to something that comes out of a lower body.
As far as like sharpness, resolution.
Resolution,
dynamic range,
definitely. But dynamic range. I mean, color depth, all those things. Just all those little nuances that add up to basically create what we think of as the movie look, I guess.
Cinematic image.
The cinema look.
Cinema. Yeah, but it's funny that you still do projects on the things like the GH4 and the D800. It just goes to show that each project's unique and there's a tool for every job.
Oh yeah, I mean the GH4 is definitely an incredibly useful tool in my arsenal. I mean, you can't beat the 4K. I mean, even if you're not, authoring to 4K, I mean, it's just downscaling and resampling. I mean, it makes the image look that much better, and it gives you more leeway in post with, just cropping and doing stuff like that. I mean, you can film an interview with a GH4 and just one camera, and basically by switching, to punching in and then pulling back out. I mean, you can kind of
two setups,
emulate the look of a two-camera setup.
Nice. All right, is yours hacked or is yours normal?
No, I mean, I feel like you don't need to hack the GH series anymore. That was a big thing starting out with those. I think the GH2 was the first one to have a really widely adopted. It was a really widely adopted camera that was, hackable.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite movies was shot on it, Upstream Color. So I mean, it's one of my favorites.
Speaking of him, he's
Shane Carruth.
Yeah, his next movie. I guess they're in filming or they're done.
I don't know,
but he got like a huge budget lately.
It'll be interesting to see what he does with that bigger budget for sure.
And he's not shooting it. So
I feel like they've.
He's just directing.
It's a science fiction. It's definitely
as it should be
in the science fiction genre. It's been a while since I read anything about it. I know he's always is kind of working on multiple projects at the same time. I think during Upstream Color, I think he was working on it as well. I think even some of the things like the movies they're working on in the movie of Upstream Color, I think those are some pre-production or maybe some early looks at his next movie, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I was reading that he got like
Don't quote me on that.
$20 million budget, something
huge.
What it is? Yeah.
I don't even know what the budget for Upstream Color was.
Probably a couple grand.
Jeez.
I don't know, something ridiculous.
How does he make a living?
I mean, he is like one of the prime examples of doing a lot with a little and coming away with a fantastic piece of art.
Doing a lot with a little, doing a lot by himself. I mean, he does the music for all of his movies. He directs them, shoots a lot of them, acts in them. I think he's acted in. I mean, he's really only done 2 movies, Primer and Upstream Color, right?
Yeah, it blows my mind.
Oh, it's crazy. But I mean, yeah,
the budget for Upstream Color, by the way, is
what is it?
$50,000. So for all of you filmmakers out there that think you can't do it with just a little bit of money, you can.
You can, yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's the thing. It's it's not all the time. At the end of the day, the size of the camera, or whether you're using a Red Dragon or an Alexa or a T2i. I've seen some amazing stuff that's been shot on a T2i.
Yep.
It's the intent and who's behind the camera and what the vision is. I think that's the most important thing.
Knowing the limitations of the gear, I think, is really important.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you do have to take that into consideration. I mean, you get some pretty bad moire on, T2Is and D800s and all like the, kind of mid-level HDSLRs.
For sure. And you can kind of, get rid of a little bit of it via wardrobe selections, location selections, making sure that you're shooting it the right way.
Yeah, just as long as, again, you know what you're working with and how to creatively work through your problems.
Nice. So on the show, we like to ask 3 questions. We haven't done it in a long time, like kind of stratified it and broken it into the 3 parts. But one of them is, what are you working on? So currently, what are you working on? What do you have coming up in your freelance arsenal?
Just this morning, actually, I sent off the final cut of an animation project I'm working on with an agency in town. I mean, I probably don't want to talk too much about it, but it is just like an explainer video, sort of.
Okay.
And it has to do with credit cards and interest rates and fun stuff like that.
You working in After Effects?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do is working closely with the designer. They'll, sometimes they'll just lay out a whole storyboard and in Illustrator, and I'm able to just extract things from that and then animate it in After Effects. I mean, it's just, nothing fancy. It's still basic level stuff, but you're able to do some cool stuff with it.
Yeah. Very cool.
I mean, that's something, just finished that today. I've got a couple more of those coming up. Just a lot of miscellaneous post work I'm doing for people around town.
Yeah. Any shooting stuff on the horizon or anything that just kind of wrapped up that you want to pimp out?
Probably not. Not at the moment.
No.
I mean,
focusing on post for a while. That's cool.
We did. I did this web series with some friends of mine that I work with on occasion. Just kind of a short thing that we've been working on. I think we're gearing up to do some more of that soon. It's called Cincinnati's Hottest New Web Series.
Nice. Is it up anywhere?
Yeah, I think
people check it out
there. It's able to be checked out. I mean, we're working through pre-production phases on a couple of shorter episodes, kind of retooling our approach for it. But
cool.
Yeah, it's that's probably the last thing I'll be shooting for a little while, at least, I think.
Nice. All right, question 2. Put your pencil down on the first one.
Got it.
What are you watching?
What am I watching? Oh, I mean, because it's October and all, I've been watching my fair share of horror movies. The girlfriend and I have actually assembled a pretty comprehensive list.
I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah. We basically put them. We came up with a list. I mean, maybe 10 or 12, 15 a piece, and then just put them into a hat and we draw every night. Sometimes we'll do 2 at a time. But
so what are some of the recent ones?
We've watched Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 3, and 7, which in my opinion is like the trifecta of Elm Street movies.
Really?
Well, yeah, because you get the whole arc of the original protagonist Nancy. I mean, you get that in the first and the third movie. The second movie actually had nothing to do with her. It was just kind of a weird offshoot. And then 7, which is Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that's like the meta horror movie before that he made before Scream. And she's basically the actress that played Nancy is in the movie playing herself, and it's really interesting and well done. I don't think it gets enough credit.
Interesting. I've never seen that.
Really?
Check it out. Yeah. I've seen very few of those Nightmare movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're missing out.
I know. Anything in theaters you've watched recently? I haven't been. Brandon and I talked about it last episode. We haven't been in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Struggling to remember the last movie I saw in theaters.
Or shows too. I'll bring up a show. I just watched
Westworld.
Recommendation from Scott. Westworld.
Westworld is amazing.
I thought it was fantastic.
I thought it was good. I mean, it's one of those things where like it's super popular. Like everybody's talking about it. So like, I mean, I'm wary about stuff like that. You know, I go into it. I'm like, it's just everybody. It's so hyped up. But I mean, I loved it.
I think
it was
worth
great.
The hype.
It was worth it. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with it. I mean, and I don't want to. I don't want to like spoil it, but like, I mean, it's not even really a big spoiler, but they do have sort of like a fake out and towards the beginning of that with a certain character that I thought played out very interestingly.
The
James Marston.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that was a good fake out. There's one issue I have with the Man in Black character.
Ed Harris?
Yeah.
Ed Harris's character?
There was one
good old Ed Harris
sequence that happened, and I was like, wait, that shouldn't have happened.
What was it?
We'll have to talk about it later. I don't want to spoil it for listeners that haven't watched it. We'll talk about it after the show, and you can fill me in on what you think.
What you're talking about.
Yeah, there's something that happened between Marsden and him, and I was like, wait.
Did you see? You've seen the original, right?
Yeah. And I know that, but I heard that it was going to be different in the series. So anyway, we'll discuss after the show what we think.
In private.
Yeah, in private. So we don't want to spoil it for the listeners out there. What are you excited about? That's the third and final question.
What am I excited about?
Yeah, it can be related to gear or movies or your own projects or life or fantasy football or anything.
Man. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about with all of those things.
Yeah.
But definitely excited to be freelancing again full time. I mean, it's something right out of the gate, out of college again. Like that's something I did and picked up a lot of steam before coming into the agency world. And I mean, I've always wanted to get back to it and just have a more variety of projects, a wider variety of projects available to me personally, and also have the ability to work on, side projects and personal projects and stuff like that. So it's exciting to be back in that world. Fantasy football, definitely excited about that. I mean, especially after last night's game, I've got David Johnson, 30 points. I mean, I'm looking pretty good this week.
That's insane.
How are you looking?
I haven't started. None of my people have played yet, but I'm feeling good. I'm still worried.
You got a lot of injuries on your lineup.
Worried if Cam's going to play or not. So we'll have to see how that goes. It's kind of a day-to-day monitoring.
Oh yeah, but the life of fantasy football.
My backup is not good.
Ryan Tannehill
goes by the name of Tannehill.
Yeah, it's not
fantastic.
Nope.
Sorry, Ryan. I'm not a fan. I'm sure you're a great person.
Yeah. I'm sure you're a great football player.
Yeah. When you want to be. Anyway, going back to the freelance thing. So we're in the same boat now on that front. How are you? How are you feeling, and how are you approaching the getting work side of things?
Oh man,
people do it a little differently.
Oh yeah.
Is it like relationships and connections that you had from the agency realm that carried over, or are you having to go out and seek new connections, and are you doing online stuff like people do, or what are you doing?
Online stuff.
Yeah, people go to like Mandy or Craigslist or Production Hub, or
I still get the random Production Hub notification every 6 months.
Yeah. Here are the jobs
that's
you
about
missed.
how useful that is.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like I've found a couple of jobs that way, but mostly, you're right. It is based off of relationships I have with people still in the agency world. I mean, being in the agency world for the last 5 or 6 years, I know a lot of people in a lot of different places just because they've all spread out. Just it's been good. So. I've got work from a lot of different agencies in town, and I mean that's where the bulk of it is coming from right now for sure. And just past relationships, clients that I've worked with at these agencies. I mean that's been another source of work as well.
Interesting. Are you trying to seek out anything else, or are you kind of happy where you're at? Yeah.
Oh, I mean at the moment, it. And this has been the case even in the agency world. Like, you would think that, the warmer months, the warmer seasons in spring and summer, that's where you get a lot of work. And you do. You do get a lot of work during that period of time. But for me, it's always been, fall heading into winter, strangely enough, that I get a lot of work. I mean, I would get dumped on at agency. Back at my last jobs, I'd get dumped on in the fall. I mean, they're just trying to wrap everything up before the end of the year.
It's kind of like opposite
keeps coming out
for me and everyone that I know. We're like, November's coming around, man. You got to button up and put away your nut for the winter.
I don't even know, man. I don't know how to explain that, but I mean, that's it. I'm sure it's gonna change, and it's gonna, you get into the really colder months, late November, December. It's just you're just hanging out.
Yeah, but it's good that you have you're doing work in the post side, because there's always a lot of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, post. I love post. I mean, it's you wake up, you roll out of bed. I mean, I basically roll out of bed, make a pot of coffee, go upstairs, and just get right to it. And it's just really easy to get dialed in when you're on a schedule like that, and you're able to work from home.
Nice,
for sure.
What is here's a weird question. What's your favorite project that you've done?
Favorite project ever?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's a weird one.
I mean, I can't deny how fun it was to go down to Maker's Mark and Jim Beam and see the ins and outs of it, and get to go in there with camera equipment and film the process and just be immersed in that. That was a lot of fun. Some of the videos that I've done with you, actually, that we pitched in on some of the music videos, the rap videos. Those stick out.
For those of you that don't know, in a former life, I shot low budget local Cincinnati rap videos.
They were great.
I lugged around the Red One camera and hired Joel here for half of what I was making, which I think was like $100.
So lo-fi.
Yeah.
No, those are fun. Those are fun because they were low budget, and they doing it for the real. They don't pay enough, but like it's it's work that might not be accessible to you otherwise, and it's just it's stuff you can put on your reel. It's stuff you can say you've done, and I mean, I don't know, man. I thought those videos were pretty cool, man.
They were. They turned out great. I mean, I can't deny that they helped me, put together a solid reel to get the higher end work. Mm-hmm. So like that's part of the whole industry is just stepping stone. Is that you got to build up.
Yeah. You got to slowly work your way up and take projects as they come to you and constantly push yourself to take on bigger projects and more difficult projects, and you just got to constantly push yourself because no one else is gonna push you.
Oh, no doubt. Has that really changed from agency world to freelance world? Has your mindset shifted as well? Or
oh, absolutely. I mean,
do you have to think about things differently?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you've got to be your own man when you're on your own. You've got to motivate yourself. You've got to find a reason to get up in the morning and chase after that work. And I mean, just being on your own and it being your name on the line definitely means more and pushes me harder for sure. I mean, in agency world, you do have to work just as hard, but I mean, it's tough sometimes. I mean, at larger agencies in particular, I mean, sometimes you could feel like you get put in a shoebox, or you get hung out to dry a lot.
Lost in the shuffle there.
Lost in the shuffle. I mean, there's a lot of politicking involved at certain places. But I mean, you're definitely able to have just a successful career in the agency world as you are on your own or anywhere else. I mean, it's just knowing how to get the best work done.
Yeah, well, like you said, your name's on the line. You're not working for a huge company. You're working for yourself. So do you put a lot of time into branding and self-promotion? And if so, how do you go about that? Like, what is your technique?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to constantly, like you were showing me on the car ride over, you got to constantly be making new reels. You've got to constantly be updating your online presence and reaching out to people and pushing yourself out there and making yourself making yourself known to the environment that you're in. And I mean, that for me, that comes the same way. Making demo reels, updating my website. Pursuing projects that are interesting to me that I think will, put me out there and make me visible to people that might want to work with me or hire me.
Yeah. Nice. What about here's another interesting question. Comfort zone. So it's a simple phrase, but I find in a lot of projects, especially recently, as you kind of step up, the bigger project, the next step up, you are immediately out of your comfort zone. And there's a lot more on the line. And especially, in agency environment, you're working with some money and some brands. In freelance is same thing. You're out to dry. If the project doesn't work out, you're kind of screwed for the next month or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you go about dealing with that and making yourself feel comfortable? Because I know a lot of people are kind of dealing with the same thing. Where they're like, this project's beyond me.
Just in terms of like it being out of the realms of your skill set, or maybe it not being
I think you
like
feel
something
it
that
is.
you think like you can do or accomplish. I mean, you've got to always push yourself. You've got to go out of your comfort zone. You've got to find projects that make you uncomfortable, because you don't want to get stuck doing the same thing. And I mean, there's no guarantees to one type of work at all. I mean, and I mean that I've had to deal with that a lot. I mean, totally. At U.S. Digital Partners, one of the agencies I've worked for in the past, one of my first projects there was a video for the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. And I mean, it was not something I'm familiar with. And we had to go out to the Athenaeum of Ohio, I think it was near Anderson, and basically film some interviews there and kind of come up with a compelling narrative for the seminary life that they had there, to kind of show people what that was like and to help kind of market the Archdiocese a little bit. I mean, I was totally out of my comfort zone on that, but at the end of the day, we were able to get it done. We came up with an approach that worked out. We got some beautiful footage. I think that was one of the videos that we got a telly for when I worked there. So
gorgeous,
it was
I thought.
good. Thanks.
Yeah, when that first popped up in your reel, a couple years back, I was like, damn.
Some cool time lapse stuff. I mean, it's a beautiful environment to film in. It was an interesting experience. Experience that I'm definitely thankful for. I mean, initially, when presented with that, I mean, my boss at the time came to me. He's like, we're working closely with the Archdiocese. We got to come up with this video, and are you up for it? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I can't say no. You just gotta learn to not say no to stuff. I mean, you've got to push yourself and go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Is there a time, here's the opposite side of that, is there a time you ever feel that people should say no?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always a time where you should say no, I guess. I mean, if the pay is not right, or you're working with someone who's shady, I mean, you've still, at the end of the day, you've got to look out for yourself. And I mean, you're in it to not only have a fulfilling career, but to make a living. So I mean, you've got to know when to turn down stuff for sure, or when stuff just doesn't seem right.
And that's a tough one. I think that's something we're always, all of us as freelance or kind of independent, low budget.
Oh yeah.
Guys are dealing with, guys and gals.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been burned too badly before, but I mean, I've had
stories.
Some shady dealings, and I mean, sometimes you can't even meet halfway on a budget or what the work looks like, or the amount of time involved. I mean, it's any number of things that can go wrong, but I mean, yeah, you've just got to trust in yourself and your judgment. And
nice. Yeah, it's all about balance and finding the right projects, and making sure you take care of numero uno primarily. That's awesome, man. Well, where can people, if they want to find out more about you, where can they go?
Oh, that'd either be my Instagram or my website. I mean,
what is your Instagram?
Instagram handle is joel.roewer. That's it.
Simple. Does that stand for something?
Roewer. Stands for my last name.
Nice.
That's my full name with the dot in there, because Instagram doesn't allow spaces.
Joel.Roewer.
That's my website is just joelroewer.com. So I mean that's
cool.
I mean, technically my holding site for new work, and it's technically my portfolio. So
nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, very cool, dude. Thanks for coming on the show. We've been friends forever, but this is first.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. Well, for all you cool kids out there, definitely, as you heard in the beginning of the show, we have a giveaway this week from Westcott Lighting. They're giving away something really cool. We're going to have one of their representatives on the show next week. So definitely tune in for the interview. Find out all about their company and about what they're giving away. I don't want to spoil it, but it's definitely cool. It is definitely useful, and you can definitely take it with you on the road. So anyway, thanks for popping by, Joel.
Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This podcast was recorded live at Sound Images Studio. Find out more at